Welcome to week 5. I am going to focus this video on the data analysis project to make sure that I really talk through the pieces, so that if you have any questions or if you have any follow-up, reach out, right? Like, that's what I'm here for. Okay, so in the prior week, you started off by analyzing, or you reviewed and went through the guided notes for the article. So the article that we read specifically focused on collecting content, so social media posts for universities. It then divided those into categories, which I asked you to identify in the guided notes, and those categories are specific to the mission and vision of universities. So in this project, you are going to use those category labels with the data you collect. You're just collecting less. You're also going to use what you learned from that article as you make your hypothesis. Okay, so a couple ways we're pulling the article back into this week, but let's start with step 1. So when you open up the data assignment project, there's a part 1 that says this is the data practice project. So you're gonna collect the data, and then you're going to draft out the project in the next week, and then you'll get feedback from me and your peers, and then you'll submit the final draft. So those are our 3 weeks working in the project, with the first week focused on the article. So this week, the first step is you have to make a choice. You can either use the English and World Languages account. We're much more active on Instagram than we are Facebook, so I recommend Instagram, but you can choose either. Or you need to select a Millersville department, club, organization, some Millersville affiliated account, because we are using the categories from the article, and the article designed those categories for specific to universities, so you need to pick a university account. I highly recommend for this practice project, to make life easier for yourself, focus on Instagram or Facebook, because those are the easiest to use, the easiest to categorize, the easiest to assess. In the next module, when you get to pick your own, then you can start playing with like TikTok or YouTube, because those are way more fun. For now, let's stay focused and let's practice the hard parts, okay? Once you have selected your account, you're going to need to write down the method, and I had you note it in the article so that you can take notes on your method. And then you see in the data analysis practice project data, which is part 1, it walks you through the steps of what you need to do. You're going to explain why you made this decision. You're going to explain what data is publicly viewable, because this project is all about what data is publicly viewable, so we can use likes and number of comments to help us understand, for this Millersville department or this Millersville organization, which of the categories are more effective. And then you will explain all of that, and you're going to collect 10 posts. You'll see in step 2 of part 1, you're going to create a working hypothesis. And this is really, really, really important. So I'm going to say it a bunch of times. Your grade is not dependent on your hypothesis being correct. It is not. Most of you, honestly, are going to have an incorrect hypothesis. It's okay. That's 100% how research works. Go and talk to, I'm pointing to the science complex. Go and talk to anybody in the science complex, and they will tell you getting no data or replicating existing data is a huge part of science. It is a whole part of the scientific method. We need to know what works and what doesn't. We need to know what are our assumptions, and some of that's going to show up in the hypothesis, and what's actually true in these types of accounts for these types of audiences, and then categories come in for these approaches to communicating the public value of universities. It's a lot that's going on in these. So don't stress about whether your hypothesis is going to be right or wrong. It will not impact your grade. It only matters in the sense that your data needs to answer it and show whether you were right or wrong. That's it. Okay, so let go of the stress that you have to guess right. You're making a hypothesis based on what you think you know about university use of these social media accounts. And we're specifically picking Millersville because you're Millersville students. You get some choice with that, so you can bring in your, slightly more expertise, or you can use the English account if that's more comfortable for you. That's totally fine. So step 2 is to create a working hypothesis. I have given you the research question. In the next module, you'll write your own. Right now, I've given you the research question. You're all coming up with a hypothesis. You'll have variations of similar ones, or you might have vastly different ones than somebody else. The goal is it must be answerable with public data. We don't have access to the back ends of all of these accounts. Well, I do for the Instagram, but that part doesn't matter for this project. We're focused solely on public data. So you have to be able to answer it based on public data. We're also collecting in a very short period of time. So you're also going to see this a few different times. That means you cannot measure audience growth over time. We don't have time and we don't have the tools to measure audience growth. That is not available. If you want to do a project with 10,000 posts over the next 10 months, you can measure audience growth. That's what it's going to take. You have a week. You can't measure audience growth. In the next module, same problem. You have 2 weeks. We don't have time. The internet moves rapidly, but not that rapidly. So not audiences, but we can look at the categories that were available in the article, none of which had to do with audience growth over time, but we can use those categories to help them identify what category we would assign our data to understand what the department or the club or the organization in Millersville that you're specifically looking at is choosing to do and how the audience is choosing to respond. That's the space we're working in. Okay, so step 2, working hypothesis. Can't measure audience growth over time. Not possible in the time that we have. Does not matter if your hypothesis is right or wrong. That does not impact your grade. The part of your hypothesis that matters is it answerable with the publicly available data? Focus on that piece. Then you'll get to step 3 where you actually collect the data. You're collecting 10 posts. They need to be sequentially in a row. I would go back at least 3 days. So we're looking at historic data. It's historic for the internet. It needs to have been out in circulation for a few days to make sure that it has had the opportunity to circulate and people have had the chance to look at it, and then go backwards from there. So if I go back 3 days and then I go back until I get 10 posts, I want 10 posts in a row. In a row. Don't mix and match your data. Do not cherry pick your data to be like, these are the best. Do not analyze your data while you're collecting it. You're going to completely skew your data if you do that. The goal right now with data, we are not in the analysis step yet. That's next week. Right now we are focused solely on collecting the data and then adding the categories based on the article. You'll see my data chart doesn't have those. I want you to do that in the genre of the post. What is the genre? Pull from the article, stick it in there, add the other information, add your notes, and then that's it. You'll see step 5 is an audience analysis. Who are the students? Millersville students specifically. Millersville students, alumni, staff, faculty, community members. Who's the audience of this? Some will be heavier leaning towards students, some won't. Some will have a very specific student flair. What does that look like? So I've got information in here to help you unpack that. That is part 2. That is your work for this week. If you have questions about that, please let me know. Please reach out on email, come to office hours, or send me a note on Tumblr. I'll see you online.